What can I do? That is one of the most common questions people ask when discussing and thinking about the climate crisis, or any social justice issue for that matter. It's a question that perfectly captures the feelings of hopelessness and helplessness we all feel when confronted with the brutal reality and impacts of the climate crisis unfolding before our very eyes, sadly getting worse and worse. How can little old me make a difference to this enormous, overwhelming, insurmountable issue that impacts us all? And sadly, those most impacted and who suffer the most are usually the ones who have done the least to cause the problem in the first place. I know I have asked this question many times. When I was around 14 or 15, I remember being in school and learning about the depleting ozone layer and other environmental problems and how we were largely to blame. I had two options: bury my head in the sand or try and play my part and do something about it. So I emailed the charity WWF, not the wrestling, to offer my support and ask them what could I do. And I'm very proud to say 13 years later, I'm an ambassador and I've had the privilege to support their work within schools, with governments and in landscapes around the world. That one email set the course for my activism and started my journey in the environmental space, working with a number of charities, organisations and people of all ages. Now, I want to prefix all I'm about to say with this. There is no doubt that the essential, vital and crucial changes we need to see absolutely has to come from governments, industries and big business. Yes, we, humanity, need to rethink how our world operates, but the rhetoric that it's down to us, the individual, to solve the climate crisis is simply not true or fair. It's an easy way for business and government leaders to pass the blame baton, like the BP advertising campaign to popularise the term carbon footprint for individuals in 2005. It is clear that the seismic change we and our planet needs to see, it must be led by our leaders and big business. So perhaps we should be asking, what should they do, instead of what can I do, as our first point of call. Now, seismic change may seem at this moment a far-off dream. How can countries unite and work together? Well, history shows us that it is possible. In 1987, the Montreal Protocol was the first treaty in the history of the United Nations to receive universal ratification. All 197 countries agreed to this treaty that regulates the production and consumption of nearly 100 man-made chemicals referred to as ozone-depleting substances. And last year, in 2023, the United Nations released a report to say the ozone layer was now healing itself. So we know humanity can do it, and we know nature has this magical capability to heal and recover if we allow it to. Now, I must admit, I almost didn't do this talk today. I mean, who am I to stand here and spout on about what we can all do? You know, I'm not equipped enough to do this. I have no authority or intelligence to talk on this topic. But I'd like to think these are the very reasons why I should. Because anyone and everyone can have their say. Everyone is a part of this. You, me, we still have a voice that matters and should be heard. So, what can you do? Well, some of us have the power to influence governments by voting or writing to your MP. Some can influence business by choosing where and how we spend our money, who we bank with, or where our pensions are invested. We can make personal lifestyle choices and changes. We could look at our diet, maybe trying to fly a little bit less, remembering those 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. These are all things some of us have the power to do, but not everyone. I am very aware of the immense privilege I have in my own life to even be able to stand here and have this conversation, to be able to influence and bring about changes in my own life. It is a luxury, and one that most do not have. However, one of the most important things we can all do and must do, in my opinion, is to not lose hope and try to be a part of the solution in some way. Because if we all feel helpless and hopeless, if we all switch off and disengage from the problem, well, what chance do we seriously have at bringing about the change we need to see? Without us, the people, change will never come. We have the power, we have the voice, and again, All we have to do is look to history to see that we can make change happen even under the most difficult and oppressive of circumstances. Like in my hometown of Manchester, where in 1903, Emmeline Pankhurst founded the WSPU, an organisation that fought for the women's right to vote. After 25 years of global mobilisation, women got the vote when the Representation of the People Act was passed in 1928. People power. In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a Montgomery, Alabama bus, igniting outrage and a 381-day boycott of the bus company, resulting in the Supreme Court ruling segregated seating was unconstitutional. People power. In August 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement, including the likes of Bayard Rustin and A. Philip Randolph, amongst others, inspired the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. 250,000 people marched, the largest gathering of civil rights of its time, and a year later, the historic Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed. People power. And more recently, in August 2018, Greta Thunberg, at 15 years old, started a school strike for climate. She protested outside Swedish Parliament on a school day, calling for action on the climate crisis. She inspired students and young people around the world to join her. Their voices could not be ignored. These strikes not only rang the alarm, but for me, they shifted and drove conversation and action around the climate crisis far beyond what had achieved in the last 40 years before. People power. All of these individuals had the courage, the passion, and the unwavering determination to stand up for what they believe in, which then inspired a whole movement of people, which in turn led to changes that now make up the very fabric of the world we live in today. Now, I know we can't all be the next Emmeline Pankhurst or Greta Thunberg, but maybe we could be more like Sky Neville, who in 2020, at 10 years old, was outraged at the cheap plastic toys that came with her favourite magazine. So she wrote to publishers asking them to stop and think. She started a petition that received over 65,000 signatures. And a year later, Waitrose announced they would stop selling magazines with plastic toys on. And her favourite magazine announced they would offer a gift-free option. One girl, one letter, people power. In the words of Patti Smith, people have the power. Now, someone said to me recently, if you're going to talk about the darkness, don't forget to talk about the light. And that has never felt more true when it comes to the climate crisis. Yes, it is a lot. And it's understandable to feel sad, angry, despondent, disengaged, and hopeless. Even more so when all we hear about is the doom and gloom of the issue. But the fact that we still feel these emotions shows we still care. I mean, these are feelings that I constantly battle with from time to time. But there is so much light out there, and there is so much good happening, and there is so much that can still happen. It is very easy to forget. And that is why I always come back to Sky or Rosa Parks or the team of 4 individuals at a WWF Jaguar conservation project I was lucky enough to visit in Brazil recently, who have increased the jaguar population numbers in that area of the rainforest from no more than 54 to 125. We all have this power within ourselves, this amazing potential that can make anything happen. I have no doubt about that. Whatever you care about, whatever you're passionate about, whichever issues you feel connected to, don't disengage, don't lose hope, because you can make a difference. So the next time that question pops up and you ask, well, what can I do? Remember, there is always something. And remember, history has shown if we all come together, work together, stand up and speak up for what we believe in, there truly is no stronger force. We can influence governments, industries, organizations, and big business. We can bring about the change we need to see. Small actions can make that big change. We can make a positive difference to the world we live in now and for everyone and for future generations to come. But if all that's to happen, one thing we all need is the hope and belief that change can and will come if we want it to. And if you're looking for inspiration on where to start, I was lucky enough to be able to ask one of my heroes, Sir David Attenborough, a man who has given a voice to the natural world like no other, for one simple thing we can all do. And he told me that we first need to reconnect with nature by simply getting in nature, stopping, sitting down, don't move, keep quiet, wait 10 minutes. And he said he'd be very surprised if something pretty interesting didn't happen within those 10 minutes. He said, you do that in a woodland. If you haven't done it, it's extraordinary. Thank you.